So let's say you use a jar every 2 weeks. So this is 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. And I got this much in the freezer as well, and that's pretty much all the garlic scapes I've got this for this year. Hey, it's Greg here with maritimegardening.com, and I thought today I'd show you a way to preserve and make use of your garlic scapes. If you grow a lot of garlic, then you probably notice that within about the span of a week you get a whole lot of garlic scapes. I grow about 250 garlic every year. That means in the span of about a week I got to figure out what to do with about 250 garlic scapes. And I have found that over the years what makes the most sense is to make some sort of pesto out of them, and I've made videos on that. But I got thinking the other day that pesto only has one application. Basically, that is to say, it can only, or to put it another way, it can only be used for a certain culinary style. I guess maybe that's a better way of putting it, because it's got various herbs and various flavors in it. So I got thinking, what if I just made a garlic scape paste, right? So that would have the garlic flavor. It would preserve all the scapes for later use. But I wouldn't be confined to just using it for, Italian type cooking or things in that from that general part of the world. I could use it for Middle Eastern cooking. I can use it for Asian style cooking. I can use it for a variety of things, right? So that's what I'm going to show you how to do here today, is to just make a garlic paste. And all you need is some oil. You can use olive oil. You can just use the cheap stuff. You need water. You need salt. And you need lemon. Where's my lemon? Lemon, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to make the paste and we're going to store it in jars about this size, okay? You can use half this size. This jar is a 250 milliliter jar. I wouldn't go any larger than this. And then, you leave a space at the top and you just stick it in your freezer. And when you've used one up, you put it in your fridge, and it'll keep for a couple weeks just fine like that in the fridge, right? If you go any larger, then you'd have it in the fridge for a long time, and it might go off during that time. So that's the way I do it. You can use half-size jars, whatever you want. But the first thing you got to do is reduce this and get it in a state where it can go into a food processor. And I mean, yes, you could do this with a mortise and pestle, but it would be very labor-intensive. So I have found the easiest way to get these, and I'm using the whole scape, right? So this is from the tip, right, all the way to where I snapped it off from the main stem. And I guess for people that want to ask, when do you harvest the garlic scape? Once, basically, the scape starts growing, it makes a turn, and then it starts going back up. Once it's made a circle, it's time to harvest it. You can see a couple of them here. This one's gone beyond making a circle, right? But really, once you see this starting to happen, get them all off, right? That way the plant will stop putting energy to the bulb. It's like a flower-like thing. It's not a flower, but it's like a flower. It'll stop putting energy to the bulb and start putting all of its energy that's being gathered from the leaves, right, into the bulb where you want it. So you get nice, big, fat, healthy-looking garlic. All right. So I found the easiest way to cut these down to size is to actually use scissors. And it's funny, we're not trained to use scissors in the kitchen. At least I wasn't growing up. But there's a lot of situations where scissors are sort of an ideal food prep tool, because they just cut differently. They cut in a different way than a knife, right? They just allow you to do things you can't do with a knife. So let me cut these up and I'll get back to you in a second. All right, so I got that worked down to manageable size here, just in case you're wondering how much garlic I'm doing this with, so you can get a sense of the ratios I'm working with. In terms of the garlic scape, this is a mixing bowl. It's 14 inches in diameter and about 4 inches high. All right, so that's the size mixing bowl this is here. All right, so I've got about, I don't know, maybe half of them in here. They're all going to be in here eventually, all right? That's the plan anyway. All right, so got the garlic in here. Let's crank the top on. Now, in terms of the amount of oil and the amount of water, I start with a cup of each. And then, I mean, depending on the conditions under which you harvested the garlic, it has a higher or lower moisture content. So you might need more oil and water, you might need less. But basically I like to have about as much water as I have oil in this mix. If it's too dry in here, it just won't, it won't turn over. The motor, it just won't mix properly, okay? So that's why you do that. All right, so I'm going to put, so I've got a cup of water, a cup of oil. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of salt in, right? And the juice of 1 lemon. It's got the old-timey lemon squeezy thingy here. That's all you need. Buy one of these made of glass. It'll last you the rest of your life as long as you don't drop it. So juice of 1 lemon for this amount. And if you were going to make more, you'd want more lemon, of course. I find with this amount of garlic scape, you really don't, it doesn't taste lemony. Really, you're just adding this because it helps preserve it. When you take it out of the freezer, when you thaw it and you put it in your fridge, with the lemon, you're just buying yourself that much more time here, just raising the acidity of it. You know, it adds a certain flavor to it, an acidic flavor, but it's not overwhelming. Basically, you're not turning this into a lemon paste, right? I run it through a strainer here. That's just the easiest way to ensure that you don't have any seeds, because seeds make things taste bitter. And now we can begin. So all we're doing here is we're going to pulse it down. It's going to look like guacamole. Okay, that's moving really well and mixing really well. I'm going to add a little bit more. So from this point onward, you're adding the stem, the scapes, and pulsing the food processor and making decisions over whether you need more oil and water to keep it fluid, right? To keep the thing moving. If you see the mixture inside slowing down, then you know it's not going to mix right. This is still moving pretty good. I'm going to knock the sides down here. Just got a bit of stuff on the sides. It doesn't have to be a perfect paste, okay? It just has to be, really, has to have a certain amount of pastiness, but not too much. But that makes any sense at all. Then there we go. Now, to my mind, this is slowing down to some extent. It's so I need to sort of speed things up again. So we haven't got a lot of garlic scape left, so I don't want to put too much liquid in. So I'm going to go in 1/4 cup increments, right? So I'm going to put a 1/4 cup of water and a 1/4 cup of oil. That'll speed things up here. See how that looks. All right, not bad. Now I'm just going to put the rest in. We've pretty much filled it. This is a large food processor. I can't remember the size of it, but it's about as large as, for domestic use. It's relatively equivalent to a, it's almost a commercial size. It's hard to find them like this, but anyway, this one's a good size. Okay, so that's accepting, as long as the garlic scapes are being pulled down into it like a whirlpool, right? If they're not getting pulled down into it, you're too dry. In this case here, they're getting pulled down. Everything's moving throughout the mixture here, right? So I'm getting a good degree of exchange. So I'm just going to leave it like this. I think that might be enough liquid in there. Okay, I just let that run for about a minute just to make sure everything's well combined. Just going to push the size down and give it a couple more shots. All right, that's good. All right, so that's where we are. Let me get a little dish and just show you what that looks like up close. All right, so that's what it looks like. Just garlic, salt, and a little bit of lemon juice. You can use it in anything. All right, it's still not perfectly pureed, but it's well pureed. It's perfectly fine, right, to use in whatever you're going to use it in. Now all that's left to be done is to jar these up. I mean, you want to make sure your jars are clean. You're not canning here. These go in the freezer. I mean, I want this garlic to be as fresh tasting as possible. I'm sure there's a way you could heat this up for canning, but I like things to be easy. I've got the room in my freezer, and also by freezing this in this state, it has a relatively fresh taste when you take it out and thaw it, right? It's just the next best thing to fresh, right? Because you've added the salt, you've added the lemon, you've added things that preserve, right? So it's just effortless, just an effortless way to preserve it, right? Get one of these things that really save you a lot of grief, right? Leave some space, right? Just don't fill in any higher than the base of the threading of the screws, right? So leave, what they say, half an inch near the top, right? Leave some space, because there is water in there, so it'll expand a little bit when it freezes. But I find with this ratio of oil and water, 1:1, with the scapes, it doesn't expand to an extent where it's going to smash the jar. You leave a space like that. It'll be just fine. So we just jar that up and continue on. Right? That's all you need to do. Another good thing to do before you put the lid on the can, I didn't do it with this one, is to give it a couple, don't shake it, just give it a bang like this. Just to get all the all the air pockets out. All right, so here I got one with no lid. You just bang it on your palm like this. And that'll get the air pockets out. So when you've got it storing in your fridge, there isn't a big air pocket down there. It'll store better, that's all. All right, that's all you got to do. All right, so I'm going to jar the rest of these, but I think you get the idea. You jar these up, you stick them in the freezer. Don't lay them on their side, leave them up like that. Take them out as you need them, you put them in your fridge, and just use them whenever you need garlic, and substitute them in anywhere when you need garlic. You're going to use more of this than you'd use for actual garlic cloves because it's not as strong. Maybe if something called for 1 clove of garlic, you'd put like a good tablespoon of this in, right? But you can substitute it for garlic and anything you're going to use garlic in. And now because you've preserved it this way, you've got all kinds, right? All right, so it's been, another half an hour or so. I actually did another half batch. So all of these were a result of that full batch that I did. And then I did a half batch. So what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a liter? No, 2 liters. Yes, 2 liters. Each one of these is 250 milliliters. So this is 1, 2 liters, and then we got another liter. So this is half of what I've already done this much. I already have this much in my freezer already. All right. Now, remember I said you can have a reasonable expectation that if you take one of these out and put it in the fridge, it'll keep for a couple weeks. So let's say you use a jar every 2 weeks. So this is 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. And I got this much in the freezer as well, and that's pretty much all the garlic scapes. I've got this for this year. So I've got enough for an entire year, and that's not even counting the actual garlic cloves I'm going to get out of my garlic. Now, we use a lot of garlic, so we can burn through one of these in a week. Easy, no problem at all, right? So anyway, the point is, what a great way to get the most out of your garden. I mean, I'm always trying to show you ways to do that, right? You get the garlic scape, you also get the garlic bulb. You get way too much garlic scapes to use them as a fresh green, right? I mean, you can only eat so many things with garlic scapes in them. If you've got, you know, a pile of garlic scapes this high, right, you just can't use that all. You know, they're only going to keep for about a week in the fridge as a fresh vegetable. There's only so much you can do with them. Anyway, this is just such a simple, easy, effortless way. If you've got the freezer space to store your garlic scapes, use them for later when you need them. Also, I suppose a great gift to give anyone that's into that sort of thing. So I hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. Until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching. Hey, it's Greg here with maritimegardening.com, and this is a cooking video, but we're starting outside in the garden. I'm going to show you a great way to deal with an overabundance of garlic scapes. If you know anything about growing garlic, and if you watch my channel, I'm pretty good at growing garlic. I grow a lot, 250 heads of garlic or more a year, and a good portion of them have, bulbs 3, sometimes even 4 inches in diameter, so I get pretty good results. So I'm going to talk briefly about how to get great results with garlic, other than choosing a variety that grows large. These are all music garlic behind me here. But you want to give them a really good, basically you give them the best spot, really sunny spot, really good soil. I plant mine in, middle to late October. I stick them in the ground, put a mulch over them, forget about them until around this time of year. So at some point, late spring, early summer, and this all depends on your growing zone and where you are and that sort of thing, they start getting these things called scapes, right? These, it looks like they're trying to make a flower, okay, right? Like this thing here, okay? That's called a garlic scape, okay? If you want to have large garlic, you got to remove these scapes. If you remove them, it can increase the size of the garlic bulb by like 25%. And the garlic does a lot of growing in its last month. And when these things appear, they got about a month left to grow. So you remove all the scapes. This doesn't take long. I mean, I've probably got, I don't know how many garlic are here, at least 80 or 100. Anyway, it's no big deal to remove these things. Let me bring the camera and show you how to snap these off. All right, so really, once the garlic's done one full turn, right, they twist when they start to grow. So once it's done one full turn, once you have a circle like that, right, that's the sign that you need to take them off. Once they've done a turn like that, they're still tender enough for eating, but they haven't drawn so much energy from the plant that you're not going to get a benefit by removing them, right? The plant uses its energy to make these, right? This thing at the end becomes what's called, it doesn't become a flower, it becomes what's called a bulbul, which looks like a garlic bulb, but tiny, very, very small. And that little bulbul has little tiny things that look like teeny tiny garlic cloves, which you can plant, but you'll get like really, really small garlic from, you'd have to plant those and then save the bulbs from them over a number of years to get them up to a certain size. So anyway, it takes energy from the plant to make these things. You remove them, and then it's going to put all its energy into the bulb in the ground, right? Because that's also a way of procreating, right? It's got 2 ways to procreate, above the ground and below the ground. If you take away the one, it's got plan B, and that's the one you want, right? You want them to put all their energy into plan B. All right, there we go. It's a pretty good haul. Now it's time to go to the kitchen and do something with these. Come on.